Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salamu ala Rasulihil Kareem. Amma ba'd. Qala Allahu tabarak wa ta'ala fil Qur'anil Majid wal Furqanil Hamid. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullaha haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. My dear respected brothers and elders, Allah Rabbul Izzat has sent us in this dunya for a temporary period of time. Once our stay is completed in this dunya, we will be heading for the next leg of our journey. That leg is the qabr, and then once our stay in that abode, which in the terms of Sharia is called barzakh, is complete, we will be heading for the third leg of our journey, which is the akhirah. There are three main reasons why today man is distracted from the akhirah. The first reason is that we do not see akhirah with our eyes. If we could see the hereafter with our eyes, we would not be distracted. Number two, we do not experience the akhirah. And number three, because we are in this dunya, there are many abstractions that stop us from contemplating regarding the hereafter. Many abstractions. That's why there is only one formula to this problem. If we want to keep the concept of the hereafter strong in our life, there is only one formula to this. There is only one formula to this solution, and that is to read the Quran over and over again. There is no page in the glorious Quran where Allah Rabbul Izzat does not speak about the hereafter and the consequences and the repercussions of a person's actions in this dunya in the hereafter. Not one page of the glorious Quran. There is not one hadith where you do not get this concept of the hereafter. The more you read the Quran, the more we will become strong. The more strong this concept will become in our life. And the easier it will be for us to restrain from those things that displease Allah Rabbul Izzat. The more we remain, the more we distance ourselves from the Quran, not reading the Quran but understanding the Quran. There are two levels of Quran. One is we read the Quran with the intention of barakah and blessings. There is no doubt you understand the Quran or you don't understand the Quran. The Quran will be a means of barakat and blessing in your life. But there is another angle of reading the Quran, that this Quran reforms my life. The Quran reforms my life. The majority of the case it is that we read the Quran for barakat and blessing. We do not read the Quran for our reformation, for ibrah. We do not read the Quran with this intention to take heed, to change ourselves, to learn those lessons which the nation, to learn those lessons, the lessons where the nations of the past made mistakes, to learn those lessons so we do not repeat those mistakes. If they qualified for the wrath of Allah Rabbul Izzat, there was a reason. So how can we avoid qualifying for the wrath of Allah Rabbul Izzat? We can only avoid when we ponder and contemplate, read the lives of these people, read the stories of these nations and take heed. There was a young boy in Bani Israel. He was very handsome. It is said he was the most handsome boy in Bani Israel. There's one thing which we can give our children before we leave this dunya, one present. It is the greatest present we can give our children. This is the present the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam gave to their families, and this is the present and the hadiyah they gave to their followers. And this is the present the successors of Islam gave to their children as well. If our children can hold firm to this present, hold this present close to their heart, they will never suffer defeat in this dunya. Never. They will never experience any type of depression, grief or sorrow. Never. It is the greatest present a parent can give their children. Where there are many presents, this is one present as well. And this is the present the Prophet of Allah speaks about a lot in his statements. And this is the present Umar bin Abdul Aziz gave his children. What is that? What is that present? That present is to inculcate the fear of Allah Rabbul Izzat in our children's heart. To inculcate the fear of Allah Rabbul Izzat in our children's heart. Whoever inculcates this quality in their heart, they will draw close to Allah Rabbul Izzat. Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu anhu, he said there's a difference between fearing the makhluk and fearing Allah. What is the difference? And everyone has experienced this on some level. If you don't like a person or you are scared of a person, maybe in your school days, maybe someone was bullied. People are usually bullied at school. So what do? You try to avoid that person. You try to avoid the bully. You try to ignore him. You don't come in his face. Wherever he's walking, you leave that path. You try to avoid the bully. So in this dunya, whoever you fear, you try to avoid and ignore. You try to distance yourself. Because if you come in that person's face, he will trouble you. But the fear of Allah is such that the more you fear Allah Rabbul Izzat, the more you draw close to Allah. The more Allah Rabbul Izzat unveils the curtains, removes the obstacles, and the more close you draw to Allah Rabbul Izzat. You fear the makhluk, you distance yourself. You fear Allah and you draw close to Allah Rabbul Izzat. The greatest present we can give our children, it is to inculcate the love of Allah Rabbul Izzat in their hearts. To inculcate the fear of Allah Rabbul Izzat in their hearts. And then what will happen? It is the promise of Allah. وَهُوَ يَتَوَلَّى الصَّالِحِينَ. That whoever befriends Allah Rabbul Izzat, Allah does not leave that person stranded. That person will never be alone in his life. He will always have a comforter. He will always have someone to put his shoulder on. And if you have the shoulder of Allah to put your head on, what can be more rejoiceful and more comforting and more peaceful than this? When Umar bin Abdul Aziz radiyallahu anhu was on his deathbed, the brother-in-law of Umar bin Abdul Aziz, the brother of Fatima, the wife of Umar bin Abdul Aziz, Maslama bin Abdul Malik, and these people were in charge. These people, they were controlling the affairs of the Muslims. This was a dynasty. They were very powerful people. They had all the resources of the dunya in front of them, at their hands for their disposal. All the resources of the dunya they had in their hands for their disposal. They could do anything at any time. They could do anything at any time. Very powerful. And you have seen this. There's a difference between Muslim leaders and non-Muslim leaders. And you can see this in the angels of history. When Muslims get power, it makes us crazy. When Muslims get power, we flip. Then we start to say in the silent world. If we do not say on the tongue, we say in the silent world. Ana rabbukumul a'la. What Fir'aun said. Who is bigger than me? I am Allah. He used to say. He did not say in the silent world. He said on the tongue. Who is bigger than me? He used to say to Musa, what Allah you speak about? What Allah do you talk about? This is Allah. Na'udhu billah min zalik. So Umar bin Abdul Aziz, his brother-in-law, approaches him when he's on his deathbed. And he says to him, look, you have been very unfair with your children. You have been very unfair with your children. Umar bin Abdul Aziz said, how have I been unfair with my children? He said, what are you leaving behind for them? According to the inheritance you are leaving behind, if I calculate, you are leaving only 2 dirham per child. 2 dirham per child. Umar bin Abdul Aziz had 11 boys. He said, you are only leaving 2 dirham per child. You are very unfair with your children. Because look, as I am the uncle of the children, I give you this 100,000 dirham. Distribute this amongst your children. Umar bin Abdul Aziz said, you promise you will give me this money? He said, yes. He said, look, instead of giving my children this money, my children do not need your money. Wherever you have accumulated this money from, whatever unlawful sources you have accumulated this money from taking bribes and being unjust to the people, return this money back to their recipients. My children do not need this money. This money is haram for them. And then he said to Muslima bin Abdul Malik, can you please call my children? So Umar bin Abdul Aziz's children, they came. And then Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he addressed his children. And he said, oh my children, there were 2 paths in front of me. This is when Allah Rabbul Izzat opens the chest. And when you see the hereafter, you can only say this. If you don't see the unseen, you will never say this. You cannot understand where Umar bin Abdul Aziz was coming from. Sayyidina Ali used to say, for me, Jannat and Jahannam is equal. You talk about Jannat, it does not increase my iman. And you talk about Jahannam, it does not increase my iman. The reason being is I can see Jannat and Jahannam with my eyes in this dunya. It is equal for me. You don't have to warn me. I have inculcated the fear of Allah Rabbul Izzah so much in my heart. Regardless of you talking about Jannat or Jahannam, it will not increase my iman. My iman is stationary and stagnant. According to Imam Shafi, al-imanu yazidu wa yanqus. But Sayyidina Imam Azam said, Iman does not increase or decrease, depreciate. Sayyidina Imam Shafi said, Iman increases or decreases. This is a different topic in itself. So Umar bin Abdul Aziz said, he called his children and he said, oh my children, there were 2 choices for me. I had 2 options. There were 2 paths in front of me. Everyone has these 2 paths. Everybody. He said there were 2 choices, options in front of me. One was I feed you haram. One was I accumulate wealth, regardless of that wealth being halal or haram, without any consideration. I accumulate wealth and I feed you, and then I be cast to the fire of Jahannam. And then I be cast to the fire of Jahannam. And the other choice was, I do not feed you, I do not accumulate haram for you or collect wealth for you, but I inculcate taqwa in your lives. I teach you how to receive from Allah Rabbul Izzat. And then because of this, Allah appoints me and gives me Jannah. He says, "Oh my children, your father, he did not have the endurance or the capacity to bear the fire of Jahannam. So I chose that path where I connected you to Allah Rabbul Izzat, where I taught you to ask from Allah Rabbul Izzat. And it is Allah Rabbul Izzat's promise, وَهُوَ يَتَوَلَّ الصَّالِحِينَ, that whoever befriends Allah Rabbul Izzat, Allah is their wali, Allah is their friend." The historians have mentioned, and they have wrote this in history, they have mentioned this. Muslim bin Abdul Malik, for each child, he left 1,000,000 dirham. And like I just mentioned, Umar bin Abdul Aziz only left 2 dirham per child. The historians have documented this. You can study this yourself. They say the children of Muslim bin Abdul Malik, they were found to be beggars on the doors of the Masjid. They were found to be beggars. And Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he said, "If my children are pious and righteous, Allah will never waste them. And if my children are disobedient to Allah Rabbul Izzat, I don't care what Allah does to them. I don't care if Allah destroys them, if they are not obedient to Allah Rabbul Izzat." The children of Muslim bin Abdul Malik, they were found to be beggars on the doors of the Masjid. And on the contrary, the children of Umar bin Abdul Aziz, who their father only left 2 dirham, people witnessed and saw with their own eyes that in one assembly, the children of Umar bin Abdul Aziz used to give 100 horses loaded with goods in the path of Allah Rabbul Izzat. 100 horses each in one assembly, because they befriended Allah Rabbul Izzat. In Bani Israel, there was a young boy who was very handsome. His beauty was spoken about. The ladies of the town had their fingers in their mouth. They would bite on their mouth when they used to see this young boy. He was so handsome. He was perfect in his aesthetics, in his looks. What would the looks of Yusuf alayhi salam be, and what would the looks of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam be? Allahu Akbar. It is that when you used to see Yusuf, you could fill your eyes. It would fill your eyes. You would see him, you would acknowledge he's very handsome, then it would fill your eyes. You would not have that craving to see Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam again. But the Prophet's beauty was such, maybe in his aesthetics he was not as handsome as Yusuf, but once you would see the Prophet of Allah, you would have that craving to see him over and over again. This is the difference. You would have the craving to see the Prophet over and over again. You would not have that craving to see Yusuf alayhi salam over and over again. It's a different type of beauty. This person, this young boy, the girls in the town they are biting on their fingers. What if they saw Yusuf? What if they saw Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So this just tells you the iman of the Sahaba, how they controlled and how their iman tamed them, how their iman settled them down. Some people, when they used to see the Prophet, their eyes used to come out. Such noor. Alhamdulillah, today we are Muslims. We are hundreds and thousands of miles away from the markaz of Islam, Makkah and Medina. We are Muslims sitting here. This is the barakat, this is the blessing, and this is the beauty of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even after 1400 years, we are still alive, alhamdulillah. Islam is still alive. Alhamdulillah, masajid are still packed. People still have the love of Allah and His Rasul in the heart. This is the barakat and the beauty of Huzur sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet of Allah. It's amazing. One person, we are all seated here, seated and united here because of one person. That is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How much beauty did this person have in his appearance and in his speech, that he has united 2 billion people today. If there are 5 to 6 billion people in the world, maybe my senses are not correct, I don't know. I'm not a... billion are Muslim for sure. Today 2 billion Muslims, we are Muslims. We are saying the name of Allah and His Rasul on our tongue because of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah. This young boy, so handsome. He used to sell baskets. He's not a rich person, he used to sell baskets. One day he had 2 baskets and he's patrolling the streets. When a girl comes out of the king's palace, she was a maid, she was a worker, she comes out. She sees this young boy and she's startled. Her eyes pop out. They say in Urdu, Kaleja bahir aa gaya. Her eyes pop out. What is this? She instantly runs in and she tells the king's daughter, I've never seen such a handsome person in my life. I've never seen such a handsome person in my life. When the king's daughter hears about this, she says, all right, if that is the case, invite him in. So this girl, the maid, she goes out and she invites him in. As he enters the palace, this young boy, the girl uncovers her chest and her face. She was an 8 out of 10 as well. If he was a 10 out of 10, she was an 8 out of 10 as well. Good looks. She uncovers herself. And the boy says, may Allah Rabbul Izzat keep you safe. Cover yourself. She said, I have not called you for this. I have called you for something else. And she tried to entice him. But she could not trap him. So she said, if you don't fulfill my desire, I will tell the king that you entered the palace forcefully and you tried to force yourself on me. When he heard this, he said, now these ladies have trapped me. So he says, can you bring a bucket of water, please? Inshallah, we'll keep it up to you and complete next week, inshallah. We're short of time. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin.